We're going to make a Sunday show. And what are we going to do today? We're going to open up the mailbag and answer some of your questions.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Sunday. Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Really? God, that means the summer vacation's almost over, too. I better get to work. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets today. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called these days, and on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, but the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube page. And if you're leaving any comments or anywhere on any of the social media things, make sure to use that hashtag, which is, where is it? Everyday Sully. It helps us find everything there. So yeah, I am pulling back the curtain a little bit. I am traveling right now, so I am unable to do a show over this weekend. So I'm going to be answering some of your questions here on this Sunday. So if something monumental happened this weekend, I promise you I'll get to it on Monday or Tuesday. But let's first go over the trivia question, which was, who is the only pitcher to win 200 games as a member of the Chicago Cubs and is best remembered for giving up a postseason homer? That was the hint I put in there, and I think I may have given it away. And Sam Olber, who from Locked On Cubs, was on the show on Thursday, and he said he got it because of the hint. And I saw a bunch of people did get it, including my dear friend RIP Baseball, who, by the way, go to that site. That is the site that I on Instagram that I rely on when I do my in memoriam video. I give Sam, who runs RIP Baseball, a shout out every year in the in memoriam video. I'm thinking Charlie Root, who gave up Babe Ruth's called shot in the 1932 World Series. That is correct. Charlie Root is the only pitcher to ever win 200 games. He made it 201. Give himself a little wiggle room. But yeah, that was Charlie Root, who is the main reason that I do not believe that Babe Ruth majestically pointed like he did in that awful movie and in Myth to center field in the 1932 World Series at Wrigley Field, because Charlie Root said if he had pointed there, he would have thrown it at his head. You know, here's what I think happened, because there's no film of it. There's a vague picture that someone has of him pointing, because back then they didn't roll cameras in between pitches because they weren't being televised live. They were just creating stuff for a newsreel. And so there was nothing. Film is expensive, so they didn't roll camera unless a pitch was being thrown. So if Babe Ruth is standing in the at home plate pointing, there's no camera going to be rolling then, because why are they rolling? They're not going to use that. They could have captured that great moment. They wouldn't have. But what I think was happening, because apparently the Cubs bench was yelling stuff at him, and he was yelling stuff, and the fans were yelling. I think what probably happened is, as he was yelling, he probably yelled back, so yeah, well, I'm going to hit a home run. What do you say about that? And you could see, there is footage of the home run. And you see that as he's running around the bases, he's making all sorts of wild hand gestures and showing off while rounding the bases. Something to remember when people say, back when I watched baseball, they didn't hot dog it. They didn't hot dog it. Back in my day, yeah, they hot dogged it then. Knock it off. But I think what happens, that's probably the things they yelled at him. And over the years, do you hear he called the shot? And then, like the mythology, pointed to center field, doing it for a little kid in the hospital. That's how American mythology takes place. And he's a big star. But hey, let's answer a couple of questions here. When I did my thing where I was criticizing the Pirates for trading Cabrian Hayes, I got a lot of people basically saying that I was out of my mind for criticizing that trade. Ultra Modern 007 says Hayes has been a major disappointment, failing to live up to the home count discount contract. And I did address this before, but I realized there was a bigger issue going on there. I understand the people saying, yeah, he's not been very good. He signed a long-term deal and he's been sucking. My problem is this. My problem is the question of an ace. How many ace pitchers do we have in Major League Baseball? Not number one starters, ace pitchers. The person you hand the ball to, and all of a sudden the team has an unbelievable advantage, and everyone thinks the bullpen is going to basically have the day off, maybe have to throw 2-3 innings at the most. If you give this guy a lead, the game's over. How many of those pitchers exist? Every team has a number one starter. It's kind of like movie stars. How many new movie stars do we have that have developed as movie stars over the last, decade? Not person wearing a Spider-Man mask, not the lead actor of a big hit movie. No, someone you put on the movie poster and you go see that movie because they're in it. How many of those people have emerged over the last 10 years? Probably 3 or 4. Same thing with ace pitchers. Every team has a number one starter. How many people have that? How many pitchers out there right now are at that level? I'm not ready to put Mizorowski there yet. When you put someone on innings limits, I'm sorry, you're not at that point. I'm not ready to put the likes of Abbott and Lodolo, who are very good pitchers. I mean, right now, I would say Christopher Sanchez is an ace, and Wheeler. I think the Phillies have 2 aces right now. I think Sanchez is having that kind of a season this year. I think Wheeler is too, but I hope he's not hurt. That's why I think Philadelphia has a great shot. I think Terrence Skubal is one of those pitchers right now. I think Garrett Crochet is one of those pitchers right now. And I think Framber Valdez is close to that. I'm willing to be generous and say he's close to that. And Paul Skenes. I think there are 6 aces. Probably only 5. But I'm going to be generous to Framber Valdez because he's been excellent in the postseason as well. So I'm going to throw Valdez in there. There's 6 aces, and 5 teams have an ace. There are 25 teams right now that don't have an ace. And the only reason I'm not including the Yankees is because Garrett Cole is injured. And Fried has been excellent for the first half of the season, but he's starting to slow down. He's no longer the centerpiece in a bingo card. So my main problem with the Pirates is they are one of 5 franchises that have an ace. And they're still building for 2 or 3 years down the line. What are you building towards? You have a Maserati. You have what big movie stars? Like Timothy Chalamet is probably the only movie star I can think of right now who's emerged over the last 10 years, or maybe Margot Robbie as well, who you just put their face on the poster and you go see them. I mean, someone will say Tom Cruise. No, I'm talking about who have emerged over the last bunch of years. Just like, yeah, we still have, Clayton Kershaw and Max Scherzer still can do a matchup. Everyone gets excited about that. But they've been around for a while. I'm talking about new aces in their prime. There are 6, and the Pirates have 1 of them. And they're building for 2 or 3 years in the future? This is negligence. They have one of the key commodities for a championship caliber team, and they've wet the bed. This is similar to what the Angels did with Mike Trout. Harder to find an ace pitcher like this. Not a number one starter. Every team has a number one starter by definition, but only 5 teams have an ace. The Phillies are contending. The Phillies are contending. The Tigers are contending. Boston is contending. Houston is contending. Pittsburgh's looking 3 years down the line. And that's what sucks. And when trading away players, major leaguers, even if they're disappointing, for players that will be helpful down the line 2 or 3 years. What are you doing here? If they did a 3-way trade and got another major leaguer, someone could help the team now, you have to help the team now. They have to start winning now. And if this offseason the Pirates are not aggressive, then the problem with baseball is not teams like the Mets and the Dodgers. It's teams like the Pirates not trying, which they're not. And I can prove that. They're not putting a major league product on the field, even though they have that ace. Oh, by the way, I mentioned Garrett Cole. Remember him? What team did he initially come up with? Oh, yeah, that would be the Pirates. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Day Hue. And look at it. We got my Game Day Hue hat right here. It's for fans like me. This one hits the mark. Makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. I'm a native New Englander. Got the Red Sox colors right here. It's about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, and anywhere in between. And if you want to go to a place where you don't have a big, huge logo, but you still want to make sure everyone knows where your team is, that's what Game Day Hue comes in. And by the way, it's not just hats. They got the split shade golf clubs made for the golf course. The perfect gift for the fan who has everything. And when I hit the links with my cousin Josh and with Eleanor, I got to have these going with me too. Right now, you get 15% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15. All right, let's take a look at some of the other. I got a lot of responses from when we did the Cubs and Brewers episode. Sherry Radway writes, Brewers are finally getting the respect they deserve. The Jays need respect. They're not getting from most MLB podcasters and MLB insiders. Well, that's true. And I'm going to give the Jays a ton of credit. I'm going to give the Brewers a ton of credit. You know, as I'm recording this, I don't 100% know what happens over the weekend, but as I'm recording this, the Jays and the Brewers would be the two best teams in their respective leagues. Now, I have to put the caveat a little bit. I picked the Philadelphia Phillies at the beginning of the year, and the fact that if they have a healthy Weaver and a healthy Sanchez and Schwarber and Harper and all them, they're still the team. I still think they'll be the toughest team to beat, but the Brewers look terrific. And the Blue Jays right now, the fact that they can hit, the fact that they have some depth in their pitching staff and everything, I'll give them all the credit in the world. I was trashing their manager for literally years. And you got to give them credit because we're now in mid-August. You're real right now. Things are real. And the fact of the matter is, if you get to this point in the season and you've gotten your reinforcements, the main thing for the Blue Jays is to stay healthy, make sure you keep Boston and, New York at bay, because I think winning a division is key for this team. If they can win the division and avoid that wild card series, right now they are ahead of Detroit and they're ahead of Houston. Houston's been a little bit up and down. Detroit's been a little bit up and down. And Toronto, frankly, has had moments of being up and down. But the key for them is to keep that distance, to keep Boston away, and to stay ahead of either Detroit or Houston. Because if they go in to a short series, if Toronto goes into a short series, and if they have a healthy Jose Barrios, they have a healthy Gausman, they have a healthy Chris Bassett. And Bassett's a weird one because Bassett sometimes looks amazing, sometimes looks awful. Eric Lauer sometimes look amazing and everything. The fact that if they have in a short series, and you can also hand the ball to Max Scherzer, who, again, isn't Max Scherzer, but he's Max Scherzer. He's someone who has been there and also done that. And the fact that Jeff Hoffman has turned things around, because he was dreadful for the first part of the season. Now he's been really, really good. It's not that pitching depth that you would see like in the 1995 Braves, but they have answers up and down the pitching staff. And if they can line up the pitching staff in a best-of-5 series, and whomever they face, if they face Houston, that they've burned through Valdez. If they're facing Boston, they've burned through Crochet. If they're facing the Yankees, they burnt through Max Fried. If they're putting their top pitcher against someone's second, third, or fourth best pitcher, and you hope that Kirk, you hope that Guerrero, you hope that a healthy Springer, you hope that Miles Straw, whomever it is getting a big hit, or a Nathan Lukes comes out and gets a big hit, then I think Toronto is going to go really far. The key for them is to avoid that series. But as for the Brewers, there was you got to give them. I am still leaning, as I said, I'm still leaning to Philadelphia if I were a betting man. I'm not, but if I were a betting man. But the thing that makes the Brewers interesting, and I mentioned this in the show where I compared them to the 2014 and 2015 Royals, is they just play smart baseball. They put the ball in play. They go first to third. They don't make dumb mistakes. They know where to throw the ball to. They'll make physical mistakes. Everyone makes a physical mistake. I made a physical mistake recording this podcast. There was an edit. I bet you missed it. But if you have Quinn Priester, Jose Quintana, Freddie Peralta, and then you find a way to use Jacob Mizorowski. That's the key for me. You find a way to use him. If you say, okay, we're not going to throw him 6 or 7 innings, then find a way to use him, because they don't strike me as they're going to make dumb mistakes. They don't strike me as a team that's going to do something stupid. They're not going to beat themselves. And that's what the Royals did in 2015, especially in 2015. They made sure they didn't beat themselves. Play smart defense, be aggressive, and always be throwing a decent pitcher up there. And that's what's going to, if they're going to face Los Angeles or Philadelphia and try to top them, I think that would be really, really great. And people should get excited about seeing teams like that because it's fun. I'll tell you, someone who's excited is Troy Weierstrass. If I forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, 7312. I'd like to see nothing more than a Cubs Brewers NLCS. That'd be fun. Now, Troy wrote that because Troy is a Brewers fan who lives amongst Cub fans, and as someone who is a native New Englander, grew up rooting for the Red Sox. I lived in New York during the Joe Torre years. It's fun, but it can be stressful. It can be stressful, but yeah, it would be great. And do you know what? More of those rivalries. Red Sox Yankees is great, but it was great when it was Astros Rangers a couple years ago. That was a thrilling series. And let's see the Cubs lock antlers with the Brew Crew. I think that's interesting. And then this one, because we're talking about how the Cubs didn't make trades because they weren't controllable players, which I think you're trying to win right now. All right, great. It's not controllable yet. It's too bad. Try to win right now. James Library says it's really interesting to hear these big market teams talk about controllable pitching. It's such a small market thing to say. That's a really aggravating thing if you're a team of a big market, supposedly big spending club, when they start talking as if they're Brad Pitt in Moneyball, or if they're running the Tampa Bay Rays. I know that some of these GMs don't want to just pull the Dombrowski method, which is, here's how we're going to win. We're going to trade away all our prospects and spend a big pile of money, and then we'll win. Well, that worked with the 97 Marlins. That turned the Tigers from a laughingstock to a 2-time pennant winner. That won a World Series title for the Red Sox in 2018. That got the Phillies to the 2022 World Series and might get them to the 2025 World Series. The whole, hey, let's go for it right now, and costs be damned. The Padres are trying that. They're trying the Dombrowski method, and they're contenders, and they're filling up the joint. But when you see the Red Sox saying things, well, we're trying to keep things under the luxury tax, and Brian Cashman saying like, well, we're trying not to spend on the luxury tax. We're controllable players. You've got the money to do that. What are you doing? You can, but also it's like the key is trying to win the series, right? That's the key. And if you tell me that some of these players are going to skedaddle but help you win a World Series title, don't you go for that? What's up with all this low market, low budget stuff? The Cubs should be acting like a big market bully. Instead, they're going, well, if we carried the one. Brewers fans should rejoice. Get into the postseason. Play smart baseball. And if they're controlled, great. But if I polled 3 million Brewer fans and told them, you get to win the World Series and a bunch of your players are going to leave via free agency, you know what I bet? I'll bet my last beer that the Brewers fans, that all the Brewer fans would be happier with a championship and players skedaddling than constantly wringing your hands over. But are they controllable? August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP or eyeing a long shot division winner or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ, before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. Now, for the NFL MVP, Earl Campbell, is he still playing? I'm going to say, hey, I'm sure a lot of people are going to say like Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Jaden Daniels. I'm going to put my money on Joe Burrow. There you go. I'm going to say he's got a chance. Now for Super Bowl odds, will it be the Eagles? Will it be the Chiefs again? Will the Lions get themselves together? Or you're going to bet where I'm going to bet, which is this, the Buffalo Bills. Do you know why? Because the Bills never let you down. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right. By the way, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, keep it right here for the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night right here on the Locked On MLB channel on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, let's go through the last couple ones here. By the way, 84 Cool Kid, no doubt a huge Cub fan, says, go Cubs, the team who gets hot in the playoffs matter. Yeah, you're right. And we've seen that. We've seen teams like the Diamondbacks in 2023 get all the way to the World Series when they weren't the best National League team that year, but they got hot at the right time. Philadelphia, that's when they got to the World Series. When the Rangers were a wild card team and won the World Series. And, you see that. You see a lot of times, like obviously the Nationals in 2019 were a wild card team that got hot at the right time. My main thing pointed for teams like Milwaukee is they play smart baseball, so they're not going to beat themselves. And if they're beaten by a team because another team played great. But I don't see that the Brewers are going to make dumb decisions or bad errors or not be aggressive. But the Cubs could very well do it. Get in, punch your ticket, which is why you should be aggressive and not care, well, this is not going to be a team that's held together next year. Let's go see. I did my show where I talked about the alternatives, what we could have instead of just the All-Star game. We could have it be a week of celebration. I got a lot of nice responses for that. And Craig Ticalo says, hey, Sully, you suggested some interesting ideas. Here's my take. And there's a reason I am leaving it like that, because there's a reason I'm doing it like this, because his response is very long, and I just want to read it all out to you. Sully, you suggested some interesting ideas. Here's my take. Teams play Sunday. There you go. Hall of Fame induction ceremony in prime time. Loving it. So far, so good. Monday, the Futures game in Cooperstown. That's a great idea. I didn't think of that. You have the Futures game, the Future Stars playing in Cooperstown. One of those players in the Futures game will eventually go to Cooperstown. You got them playing in Cooperstown. Craig, I like how you're thinking. Futures game in Cooperstown in prime time. Fabulous. Tuesday, rounds 1 through 3 of the MLB draft in Cooperstown on Tuesday. There you go. One of these players is going to go to the Hall of Fame, and some of them will go to the Hall of Fame as a tourist. In an MLB City home run derby in prime time. I'm in. Top 5 home run players in each league participate. There you go. So there you go, Shohei. You got to participate. Wednesday, All-Star game in MLB City in prime time. Okay, I still think we should start the season with an All-Star game, but you got this fine. Draft continues on Wednesday. Thursday, MLB draft continues. Friday at 3 p.m., MLB trade deadline. No games until 7 p.m. on Friday. Yeah, there's a lot there that I like. It's a lot there that I like. I think that I'm not I think the All-Star game should start the season, but Craig, you have a lot of great ideas there. I had a few people say that don't change the All-Star game. I think we have to. And a couple of people pointed out that having the trade deadline at that early might not be great for the game. I don't know. Let's give it a shot. Let's kick the tires. If it doesn't work, it worked. It doesn't work, we'll try something else. And that's the whole idea. So there you go. Some nice responses. We're having a fun weekend at baseball now, and we're getting into the home stretch. Let's talk about the trivia question here, which is, what Marlin, whether it's Miami or Florida, what Marlin is the team leader in games played, runs scored, and hits? It's the same dude. So what Marlin? This should be Mr. Marlin, but is it Mr. Marlin? Team leader in games played, runs scored, and hits. Put your answer right down there below, and follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And the best way to get a hold of us is right here on the YouTube channel. And when you're here, make sure to use that hashtag #EverydaySully. It helps us keep track of where everyone is. All right. Hope you're having a great weekend, folks, as I'm in transit talking about the wasted time of Paul Skenes in Pittsburgh, because he is that rare gem, and giving respect to the Milwaukee Brewers and giving some thought to the midseason. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.